All right, welcome everybody to our latest Live Motocross podcast as we talk all things Motocross of Nations, moto training, and just the sport in general with former GP star and now trainer Brian Jorgensen. Obviously, before we welcome him, firstly, thank you to everyone for listening and supporting the website and these podcasts. It's greatly appreciated. I'd also like to thank our sponsors in Fly Racing, Firepower, Dirt Store, and Fuchs Silkaline for all their incredible support, as without them, none of this would be possible. All right, welcome, Brian. How's life? And thanks for joining us, mate, ahead of the Motocross of Nations. It's a busy time for you, and it's one of the best weekends in the motocross calendar coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks a lot, mate. It's great to be back, and we always have some good deep talks about motocross and sharing, information and sharing experience. So yeah, it's gonna be really awesome, and it's a shame that I cannot be there. I always love to watch the Motocross of Nations. First of all, the excitement of being there myself in the past. I think I did maybe 8 or 9 or 10 Motocross of Nations, and it's always been a great event. Also for me riding for Denmark. Obviously, we never had unfortunately like a team where you think, okay, we have a chance here to have a podium. But you know what? It's also an individual sport in many ways, and I know when it comes to Motocross of Nations, it's more like a team sport. But no, I think it's going to be really exciting, and what's the best against the best, and see who's gonna clinch the title this year. And it's really like a team effort for everyone. It's probably one of the funny thing as well, because a lot of the team riders in the different nations, they ride against each other, and now they have to become a team. And it's not everyone that can succeed this, because our sport is very individual. You're riding for yourself, but now you have to think a little bit different about other. And once you see your teammate, when they ride against each other, you think, okay, like Vial did in One, he was actually faster than, I think it was, I cannot remember if it was Maxime or it was Febra, and you have to kind of like, okay, he's much faster, let him go, to win. So no, it's going to be really exciting. I don't know who you think is going to win.
Well, being an Australian, mate, I'm hopeful Australia will go back to back. Obviously, you saw them there last year do it in fine style for their first ever Motocross of Nations win. It's probably going to be pretty hard to beat at this point, but the Americans are always strong. We're just hearing news out of America that Deegan could possibly be out, so that'd mean Justin Cooper on a 250 with Hampshire and Tomac, which is still a really elite team, mate. So they know the tracks better than most, but the Aussies also know that track too. So it's probably between those two at this point, but the likes of France with Renault, Fevre, Vallon, very excellent team. Maybe if they had VR racing, that might have changed things. And if America had Sexton as well as Deegan, that might have given them a better chance for sure. But there's so much talent in there. The event's absolutely stacked, even though we're missing a few guys like Prado, Hurlings, and Vial, Deegan, Sexton. Like we said, there's still a really stacked entry list, and it's going to be like a feast of racing for the fans across the globe, mate. Are you sort of on board with Australia and the USA as the favourites?
Yeah, definitely. Like you gotta say, Hunter and Jet, which is just on a all-time high in the moment, and coming out of the SMX as well, riding incredible well, both of them. And I don't know, the third guy, was that the same third guy that was last year at
Yeah,
the
Webster.
yeah, Webster? Yeah, so I don't know, he's profiled so well, but I guess that he probably over there now and riding and testing with Jet and Honda. And he showed last year he was not maybe on top level like Jet and Hunter, but he did enough to he kept the calmness and did always his best, and was fighting for every position, every point. So that's all you can ask for, when you're riding as a team, is that everyone just goes out and do the absolutely best, and understand that it's not only about being fast for one lap, is being the consistency over the weekend that's going to bring a trophy home the end of the weekend. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. And I actually was a question for you, like, why is Herdings not riding for Holland?
Well, he
The
was kind of
specific
injured at the
reason.
time they did the announcement, so he basically didn't get picked because he wasn't sort of out there doing his thing. Like he had that massive run of form after they'd made the team announcement of Koldenhoff, Verlanderen, and De Wolf. So a little bit of a shame for Hurlings and maybe the Dutch fans, because definitely having him there would boost their chances. But still, excellent team, no doubt. They can definitely contend and have a real good crack. And then obviously you move across on the Belgian side, really exciting with the Coonan brothers and Everts. And like you've raced against, many excellent Belgian riders over the years, mate, including Liam's dad. And,
Yeah,
they're just a real force.
yeah,
And they had a little bit of a sort of slower period of talent coming through, but now looks like they're well and truly back on track. And then you've obviously got riders like Jago here, it's not racing, and Brent Van Donnick. So the future's looking a lot brighter for Belgian motocross. Maybe not their time yet, but in a few years when those riders all mature, there's definitely a chance they could regain that title. They haven't won for quite a few years,
yeah.
mate. But yeah, just your talk on some of the Belgians and the Dutch squad.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm maybe, I think, Flanders and obviously Glenn Goldenhoff is amazing, and Katie Wolf speak for himself. But when you go out and win the last, 5 or 6 Grand Prix, I would probably have reconsidered my pick, because he showed like, you know, world championship capacity, and winning multiple times, not only Sunday, one race or, 2 races, but actually winning all 3 races. But a couple of times over the last, 5, 6 Grand Prix, he have won every single moto. And yeah, I mean, Flanders obviously is a very good rider, and I deeply respect him. And also Glenn Goldenough proved that he's top 3 in the world, so he's also an amazing rider. But Herdings just have that extra, and he can get really fired up. We have seen that before with Ironman when he went over and raced against Tomac and the rest of the Americans, on a non-factory bike, you can say. Not the same spec that he rode in Europe, and just going over and just absolutely, destroyed everyone. And I think that is, well, my only point of view, like I would probably have reconsidered my pick, because he is on fire, Hurlings. It actually is, when I look at the races, the last 4, 5, 6 GPs, he's actually back to, you think if he started and he didn't have that injury, and he was actually better coming back than he was in the beginning of the season, or even in the middle of the season, or when he got injured. He was good. He's always been, amazing, but that was like amazing. The speed that he came back, and that's a funny thing, like, people are always afraid that, oh, it's gonna set me back, and when I have an injury. And I always said, I actually came back stronger and faster and more, I would not say dedicated, but more hungry when I had injury, and you really have time to sit and think, wow, I really miss this sport so much. So when you come back, you're just like, I would never take this for granted. When you have been sitting, out for a month or 2 months or whatever, you have a kind of injury. I never had any like really big injuries, but I had my reconstruction of my right knee, and I wasn't able to ride for 3 months. And when I came back riding, I felt everything was so easy, and I think that's a little bit the level that Hurlings have hit as well. When he came back, he was good and amazing, but now he was just on a different level. But anyway, it's not my choice. It's the Dutch Federation, and I'm sure that the riders are going to do their absolutely best, and they will probably get a good result. And for Belgium as well, like you said, there's some really young riders. Sasha being, only 17, 18, and the same with Lucas, and Stefan, Liam is only, he's 19 or something like that. I'm not actually sure. He's probably just hit 20. And very young team. I'm sure they can do well. We have seen, Sasha, and Lucas doing incredible well in the MXGP class and MX2 class. And I would just say, Lucas maybe just need to, Sasha need to maybe try to keep it on 2 wheels a little bit more. He's an amazing fighter. I love this. I love watching him, because he gives absolutely everything what you have, and it's so unpredictable what he's gonna do next. It's just great to watch, and I feel a little bit sorry that he has so much will and determination. You can really see that he really wants to win. But not always he have the capacity to to do it, and he definitely give 100%. But no, I think overall it's gonna be really good, and I'm a bit ashamed that I'm not able to go over there and actually watch the race live, because the atmosphere of me being at the Motocross of Nations. I mean, I remember, being in last year in Madley, but especially in Rennes, because, first of all, Madley was my last Motocross of Nation, and the year before that, 2005, when Ricky Carmichael was over, and obviously America won the Motocross of Nation with Wyndham and Ed Stratmann and Ricky Carmichael, and that race was just unbelievable. Even if I was in it, I mean, I was lucky enough to fight for the top four on Saturday, and I was actually fighting with Ricky for a couple of laps, and then he just checked out and went off. But I had a fourth, and looking at the atmosphere at Motocross of Nation is just unbelievable. You cannot even, last 2 years ago when I was in Ernie, I was just, obviously with the Blue Crew and everything, but just standing there and watching 100,000 people just going completely ballistic. It just cannot be better than that. There's nothing, no event that will ever come near that. And I'm so glad and to hear also that Motocross of Nation is back in her name next year, and it's gonna be amazing also with the with the place I am with the Blue Crew and all the young riders, and seeing them in front of that many crowd. It's just awesome. It's just no words for it. I wish that all motocross fans could go and watch a Motocross of Nation, because it's goddamn special. When a guys that jumped in front of Jet Lawrence last year, and just made that amazing pass without actually touching, but just two such a good riders on the limit, and then one little mistake, and then Geyser was there and just took the absolutely best opportunity, but still with respect, which we're gonna come back to later. I really love that. It's just like pure racing, pure heart, and for your country. Even if Geyser didn't have as much to race for as a team, but that individual fire of just showing that, fuck, you're Jet Lawrence, but I'm Tim Geyser, and I'm 5 times world champion or whatever it is. I cannot remember. It's just exciting.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Such a great event and unique the way it is. And some of those guys, like guys, are, probably their teams aren't going to necessarily win. There's a lot of individual sort of honors and sort of just testing yourself against the best in the world. A bit of a, just putting a flex on the motocross world really on that grand stage. And there's sort of a lot to ride for still. And you look at, we've mentioned a lot of the teams, Team Spain, it'll be, even though Prado is not there, Fernandez and Fares are excellent riders. And young Garcia from Bud Racing, who has been really excellent, EMX 250, regular race winner, super fast, massive talent.
Yeah,
Probably a huge step on the 450 stepping up there, mate. But he's got a lot of talent and he'll learn a lot from racing on that stage. But yeah, they've got a lot of talent. They could be one for the future as well with guys like Oliver. And obviously, we just mentioned Garcia. Braceras has quite a good Spanish crop
mm,
coming through. And then you sort of switch the focus down the list. And obviously, you got Slovenia. We mentioned Geyser and Pansar. Maybe just
mm,
had another rider they could be a real force to be reckoned with. And Switzerland with Gio and Siwa and Groitman from Cat Moto. He's a really fast young EMX 250 rider as well, mate. And then Latvia with the
yeah,
Razoulis brothers, you know them well, the Yamaha connection there, mate. They're rapid on a
mm,
bike. And then Jonas, who's, had a great career, really brilliant MXGP rider. So there's a lot
yeah,
to get excited about. Denmark with Harrop Racing, maybe the team mightn't be able to do too much damage, but he's had a great season in America, showed
yeah.
his class as well, mate. So any of that you'd like to touch on?
And yeah, I mean, I obviously know Mikkel, and I was really happy to be a little bit of part of his start of his career, and he's a great, great rider and a great personality, and I really wish him the best. And Magnus Smith, which is gonna be probably riding the open class, I'm not sure. It's also a really good rider. And the third guy, Mats Fletcher, he's also been excellent in the
Yeah.
European Championship, you know. So he showed that he can be a podium guy. He won the German Youngster Series. So when you can do that, you are definitely you're riding well. So now it's just about trying to put the package together, you know, with choosing who's going to start where, and you know who's going to start on the inside, and getting all of them. They had a great expertise with Thomas Olsen being who he was as a racer, but also now helping the young riders to try to guide them in the right direction to get the best potential out of the riders. So I'm sure they're in good hands, and yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm going to, of course, cheer for Denmark. You know, I think they have some really young riders in there as well that can develop over the next couple of years and still developing in the European Championship. So, Magnus Smith, he won the Swedish Championship, and that was one of his goal for this year. While he's always been riding EMX as well, the 250 class, and have a little bit more up and down. So he needs to find a little bit more of the, how can you say, the average of high and lows. Like now when it's high, it's like really high, but when it's low, it's like really low. And to become a good consistent rider, you need to find a very equal line between your highest and your lowest, and that's where you need more experience and more preparation. So, but it's gonna be good. I'm definitely gonna try to watch it for sure.
Yeah, and obviously, sort of another couple of teams we haven't touched on yet. Roxon's Germany with Langenfelder and Spies. That's a pretty strong team, mate. Could definitely get a quality result, get up towards the podium there. And obviously,
Yeah,
Italy as well. Cairoli racing again, mate. He's a machine. And then Adamo and Bonacorsi, who's had an excellent season in MXGP, showing himself as a real, front runner, really. He's going to have a
yeah.
great sort of career ahead of him for sure. He's an immense talent over the years. He's come through the pathway and shown what he's all about, mate. So just any words on those couple of guys, mate?
Well, I just, I think it's amazing. Like, obviously, I'm 50 now, and Caroli, was when I signed with Honda, he was his first year, he was only 16 years old. And it's just funny to see that, what he have achieved as a rider, but also his personality, how he have developed, and how he's still like really, really fast, and probably I would say almost as fast as when he won the world championship, and that's again, sometimes pulling yourself back a little bit and then coming back in again. He doesn't have to train all the time, but it's a little bit more like a pyramid. He goes like, okay, now I train a little bit harder for this event, and then after that, I have time with my family and developing, testing with Ducati, and then can come back to do another race. It's not like every weekend he have to push himself, and I think that suits him like really good. The same with Ricky when he kind of retired for Supercross, and he only did a couple of races here and there, and he was still like really fast, and sometimes maybe even faster because you're just coming in for that specific event. But no, I think Antonio is going to be really good, and this time he's going to be on a factory bike. So which then going to show a little bit more of his potential and his own kind of skills with being able to test the bikes, not only the stock one, but actually being part of the developing program of testing the factory bikes and try to develop them to be a better bikes for all the riders. So now it's going to be really exciting, and to see what they can put together.
Oh, it's going to be great, mate. And there's sort of some other topics you wanted to get stuck into on this podcast. Obviously, we saw the SMX and the MXGP and MX2 titles wrap up there, mate. There's obviously a lot of drama going on there. And looks like it's going to cost Deegan. Obviously, broke the collarbone with those shenanigans with Joe Shimoda, mate. And obviously, DeWolf was sort of trying to wrestle that title away from Langenfelder with some pretty assertive riding as well, mate. I know that stakes are high with the titles on the line, but it's a lot of various opinions. Is the sport dangerous enough as is with that sort of stuff going on? Does there need to be some bans, some financial penalties? I guess There's a lot of talk about that, hard racing. Where do you draw the line, mate? But it's an interesting topic, and it'd be great to get your insight and opinion on, that approach, because you've raced against some of the best ever over the years, mate. You've got wins, it's just how you conduct yourself on the racetrack as well, mate. A lot of these riders are young, and in hindsight, then maybe it's lamentable and regrettable, some of their actions on the track, but, they're still maturing, and the heat of the moment can get to them. And I guess moving
Mm.
forward, it's probably all learning, but yeah, just in
Yeah.
some ways, it takes the spotlight away from just what elite riders they are as well, mate, because that's what we want to focus on as well. But I know the fans and the social media love the drama and get the clicks and the interaction and the engagement. But just your take on it from a pro racing perspective, mate.
Yeah, well, obviously you can say that, we have to kind of like admit that I'm maybe a little bit more of an old style kind of, you know, man versus man. Let's bring it on. Let's ride hard, but let's keep it safe and let's keep it respectful. And with my point of view, with my own career, I always thought, there's nothing better than to win races. We all know that because we do, ride really hard. The only thing I always thought about, if I can race really clean and still win, for me that was a bigger pride than taking someone off to win and to gain a position or to do things. And I think that riding against the best riders in the world, trying to clinch for a title. Of course, there's a lot of money on the line, but if I can do that and I can be really smart of setting up the passes, because I'm riding in an intelligent way. I think that was for me personally, and maybe that's different for other people, but I can only tell you about my opinion. That was really a win for me, when I could pass someone thinking ahead all the time and thinking, okay, now I analyzed him. Now we're coming down to the heat of the moment. This is what we're gonna do. This is how I'm gonna do it. And then when you execute on it, it was like, fuck, this was really, really awesome. That was better for me than going straight into someone and try to take him out for two reasons. First of all, I like to have respect for my riders, the people that I'm racing against, because I feel if I give them respect, they will also give me respect. And someday you might need that favor around where you need, to race hard, but please don't take me down because I'm actually chasing a title or I'm chasing a GP win or whatever. So let's just use this fair and square. But to race and we already know, as we know it, like the sport is already really can be really dangerous. We are riding on the edge all the time. We are preparing ourselves as small, really top athletes and everything what you do from sleeping, eating, everything you do to perfectionize yourself. And for me, that's something, a satisfaction of actually going out and win because I was the best. So I see a little bit, with Hayden, if we take from him first, I don't think it was a fair way that he tried to do it because he actually not only tried to take him out in a corner, but he's actually like passing him and waiting, stopping almost on the track to try to take his front wheel out. And, we know as how quickly it happened also with Jet Lawrence when he came down on the start, he just put his foot out and the ACL went, and that was, part of his season, his championship done. So there's so many things where I'm thinking like, you know what, it's great that you want to win all this and you're so professional, but there's just missing a little bit of an edge of actually respect for the riders. And when you hear some of the latest interview, what did Jet Lawrence and Tomac and Hunter was talking about is that Jet said, I really like to race hard. We race bar to bar. There's a lot of money on the line, but we always have a certain respect for each other, and we know that when we race, and we race on the limit, which I think is great. You can touch a little bit and show that this is my line. But there's a difference between that and then actually trying to take someone out. And I'm also thinking in myself, if I had the chance to become a world champion and I was in a position that I wanted to win a world championship and it comes down to the last lap, and let's say it was a title chase between me and Stefan Everts, and if I took him off and I know I won the world championship because I took him off, because not because I was the best, but because I was the most dirty rider, will that give the same satisfaction as if I fucking just went and passed him and just left him and just won the race and that was enough to win the world championship? I think we both know that the second one, the what will be and just to pass him and show him, I'm the best, and that will give personally a lot more satisfaction than taking someone off. So that's my point of view. I think that when you are a person like Hayden Deegan or even Katie Wolf or whatever, you have a certain responsibility when you have so many followers and you're such a popularity, not to act, because I know that the way that the speaking and talking it's kind of a game, the same with what American wrestling, where they're doing things, and it's okay. I it's not my preference because I'm a little bit maybe old fashioned, but I understand this is the new world that we're living in, and that's okay. But when it comes to the bike and comes to taking risk and giving risk to other riders, I think it's a bad way and road to take, because I think also when you come up to the big class with the 450, when you're riding against Jet Lawrence, and I don't think they will play that game. They will just do it straight, and they can play that game. Of course, everyone can play that game, but is it futurable? Is a good way to ride like that? Because then it comes down to like, yeah, I can win a title if I break your leg, and that's not how we want the sport. So I agree a little bit. We should have some decent penalty, at the Supercross last year with the littles class, with Hayden Deegan and
Cole
number
Davies.
one. Yeah. So the pass that he did on him, I think, okay, if you were Cole Davis and you're looking back, you think like, I should have done that different, because I know Hayden, he's not gonna back off. So when he took him a little bit high, yeah, okay, that's where Cole Davis lacking a little bit of experience in thinking, okay, he should have did the same like Joe Shimoda did in the SMX when Hayden took him high and he just fucking crossed underneath him, and then he passed him back again. So that was okay. I think that didn't need a penalty. But to ride into someone or to stop him in the middle of the straight or try to take him out, and then you fall yourself, unfortunately, and break your collarbone, I think that maybe could be just God's will sometimes to say, don't do like that, just race clean, and whoever is the best is the best, and I think that came a little bit on show as well with Katie Wolf. There's been some issues during the season. I cannot remember, completely, but maybe started out a little bit slow because of different reasons. I know the reason, but I don't want to sit here and try to be clever. But I know the reason why it started a little bit late, because he also wanted to do other things that he would open a door to see, could this be possible in the future? But that's not Simon Langersfeld's mistake, that he was a little bit slow in the beginning, and both riders are really good, but like again, my point of view that when you take people down like that, would have give a great satisfaction for Katie Woods to win the world championship, knowing that this was why, and I think we have to be careful a little bit to not give this as that's the way we ride motocross. If you want to win, you got to take each other down. No, hell no. If you're really smart and a good line choice and you are fast and you're fit and you are everything that makes a world champion, then it shouldn't be necessary, like that multiple times, So we're talking about two incidents. One where he basically took him wide and just kind of stopped and checked him, so he had to fall over. With Simon, okay, I don't think that was good. The second one where he actually jumped on the inside and he was just fully committed, I think it was very dangerous. But also I think maybe that Simon Langerfeld in that position, you would have looked out of the corner of your eye and think that guy really means it. He's not gonna back off. I know that he's gonna try to take me out, because that would be the only way to win the world championship at this point. So Simon Langenfeller would have been like, hang on a minute, let me just back off, because I can just hear the motorcycle. That is not going to back off into, it's going to hit my front wheel. So that was maybe a little bit of a race incident where he should have known that Katie Wolf is not going to shut off that throttle. But also Katie Wolf could have took him a little bit more, to the right, so he would have left a little bit of place. But you know what, that is what it is. But taking people off and take them long and actually stopping, and you see that on television, and you are here now also in inspiring young kids to how to race, and they will go out in the next race and say, yeah, so Katie Wolf do this, is this the way we do it? But hey ho, it's only my experience and my ideas, and I think you should treat people with respect. And if I was ever in that position, which obviously I was never in a chairmanship position with Stefan Everts, where I would have benefited from doing this. But I can imagine myself being in that position. I would probably have been a lot more satisfied if I beat him fair and square than taking him down and eventually like creating a situation where I could have hurt myself and him, which would have not been, with my personality, would probably not have been a great satisfaction for me. So that's why I always, what I say to my students, is like, there's a lot of ways to pass people, but one of the best ways and most consistent and most respectful way is actually to be smart, and analyze and see and feel, and like I always try to explain. I know it's a little bit of a different subject, but if I was out in the desert and I was a tiger that haven't eaten for months, and you're like really hungry, you're actually that hungry that you're thinking that if you don't get something to eat today, I'm actually gonna die. So I'm always trying to explain to the rider, what way would you think? What kind of mindset would you be in? Would you be like out like, hey, I'm just here, I'm just gonna eat you? Or would you be really, really smart and really hide behind the bushes, making sure that the pack or the target that you're really approaching, you gotta be very smart and very careful and very patient. And then when it comes to the right moment, when you make that moment, that is your only choice, but it's also your last choice. And that's the way that I learned to race. I took that moment with patience when I was in a position, let's say top 5 or top 3. And then I waited, and then I looked, and then I attacked. But then when I attacked, I did it with full force. So the other person already knows that, okay, this is it. Brian, the way that he rides, he's not a dirty rider, but when he means it, he fucking means it. And then he goes for it. So I better be careful, or better watch out what I'm doing. And that's the same when you're lying, and you have that choice at that moment. So you got to make the best out of it. And that's where the patience really comes into play, and the smartness, and analyze and look and feel, and then you attack, and then the pass is done. And it gives a great satisfaction, a lot better what I experienced than actually taking people down. So but that's just my analyze. I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's up to people to judge that. But I think we are responsible as athletes to show the best version of what it means to be an athlete, because you're actually not just an athlete. You're actually not only making money from the manufacturer or the sponsors, but you're actually also someone's hero. And if you want to be a true hero, I think for me, you got to show the best respect to your competitors, and you got to show and lead the way of how to be a good athlete. I know that a lot of people, have different opinions about a lot of different athletes, but like Lewis Hamilton in the Formula One, for example, when I would say that, he got robbed of a world championship when Verstappen won the world championship after he's been winning 7 years in a row. And he won the world championship in some years ago. I cannot remember what year, but I remember it's been not so long ago. And for me, that was like, wow, it's like if you don't react more on that, and you just like, yeah, it's of course he was sad and mad, but it's just okay. That's it. And you cannot do more than what you do. And Ricky Carmichael at his time, when he, instead of like making excuses for why James Stewart beat him, or whoever that beat him. He was more like, fucking, fair play. I am doing all this. I'm doing everything to perfection. And when someone kicks my ass fair and square, I gotta take my hat off to him and think, well done, mate. You you have just beat me, and believe me, I work hard. So, and I think that's such a um, great approach, and that's why, like Ricky for me, and also Stefan Edwards, but okay, he was my competitor as well. I have great respect for all champions, or all riders basically. I don't think I have any enemies, or had any enemies in my career in that way. But you have some riders that you just think that approach that they have, being that many times champions, you could act maybe in a different way, but he tried to act in a way that is actually very respectful, and that gives even more respect when you can be who you are and stand in and just keep your feet on the ground and actually just show this is the right way to do it. And when someone beats me, I don't need to make excuses, because I do everything what I can to be the best. I'm sleeping with perfection. I'm eating with perfection. I'm riding the bike. Even the team manager for Suzuki at that time said, Ricky will come in from a race and he would be like, I need to change the suspension. Roger, I need to change the suspension, and Roger would be like, why? You just won with 15 seconds. Yeah, but I need to change the setting because I feel I can go faster, and I feel the bike is limiting me for going faster. And one day I'm going to have this so-called fastest man on the planet behind me, and I need to push that extra limit to be able to go even faster. And that's why I'm setting the bike up for the second moto to go faster, because one day he's going to be there, and then it's too late to say, oh, my suspension was too soft, or it was too whatever. Then I just have to leave myself in a position where I have no excuses. I've already prepared myself for that battle, and I did it. And whatever that came out of it, I know that I've done absolutely my best. So I think that's a very respectful way to look at your heroes, or your competitors, or even someone that you are a fan of, is when they can really keep the feet on the ground, and just be honest with themselves, and congratulate other people when they win. I think that's the biggest relief, when you are a great champion. Not saying that I've been there, but when I hear people that are so, winning so multiple championship, like Ricky Carmichael, Lewis Hamilton in Formula One, but you can really be happy on other people's behalf. For me, I think that's a great attitude. That's because how hard it is to get there. And the same in my career. Even if I never been a world champion, I never understood why people were jealous. I never understood why people, maybe didn't like me or whatever, because I tried to be the best version of myself. I know that to get where I got, it was not something that just dumped down from the sky, and I became who I became because I was lucky. It was just pure hard work, and I think that's respectful. For whatever you achieve, you have to respect all athletes, because it is not easy to get there. And when you get there, and when you achieve something, or part of your goals in your career, it's such a it's such a drill, and it's such a hard work, and there will be more tears than there will be happiness. But it's the happiness that we keep holding on to. We keep holding on to those moments, and we kind of forget all the times that when we cried, or we had pain, or we were alone, because nobody wants to hang out with a loser, but everyone wants to hang out with the champion. So it's been great in my career to have those both moments, and that really taught me how to keep my feet on the ground, and be the best, try to be the best version of myself. Not saying that I'm always succeeded, but at least I try to do my best.
Yeah, that's awesome insight, mate. Kind of that win and lose with humility. And you look at Jet Lawrence after he beat his brother, how much respect he had for him. He wasn't really celebrating. Obviously, he took the title off him. Really strange dynamic, sort of a not really a
Mm.
typical title celebration at all. But yeah, it's really cool to see the respect on the racetrack. And like you said, mate, racing fair and firm And you want to make those moves without ruining your own race too. That's a key part because obviously
Yeah.
Deegan completely destroyed his race and looks like he's gonna, have to wait another year before he goes to the Motocross of Nations. So that's a real shame for him as well as the event and just everyone associated with that Team USA effort. But with Deegan, like in the 250 class, there's not as many guys that can beat him straight up. But in the 450s, there's a laundry list of guys that can beat you. So you can't just keep making those enemies because they'll come back and repay those favors. And you just putting yourself back and putting yourself at more risk. And you got to draw the line somewhere. And that'll come with time. Brian, his dad,
Mm.
he knows what's going on. He's been there, seen, done it all. And they're very calculated
Yeah.
in what they do. So I'm sure they'll refine that when he gets to the 450 class. And just some of that approach will be maybe taken away, mate. Your take on any of that?
Yeah, no, I definitely think you're right. I think now have to obviously in some of the championship go up with the big boys, and that means that he need to start realizing that that game that he's playing maybe doesn't affect in the same way because he's up with people that have more matureness, see things in a different way, and then also having a bit of a different pack of talent and skills to that can even reach over his own limits. So now you cannot talk. The thing he went up and said to your Sumoda, you don't know what's coming up or whatever it was, and then Sumoda came back with, I don't speak English or something like that. It's just mind game. I understand the whole situation, but it's just it doesn't work with the 450. Can imagine going up to Tomac or Jet Lawrence saying that it's just they would just be standing there looking at him thinking what what you actually up to.
Yeah, it's
So
super interesting.
I think he needs to change his strategy a little bit, and not maybe with the perspective of outside the way he approach on social media, and that's maybe the way forward. I'm not saying that that is I've never been a part of that that game. You have to think about it, and I know it sounds for me being really old, like when you say that, but it's actually not more than what is it, 20 years now, and how much it changed in 20 years is just unbelievable. We never had this kind of like discussion on social media who can do what. There was only one way, and that was to turn the throttle and shut the fuck up and just go for it, and whatever that shows and that results was the real. Now we cannot even post. This weekend was not the weekend I was looking for, but I will come back stronger next weekend. It just didn't exist. It was just mood. As soon as the motor was done, there was a result list, and the rest was just mood. You cannot say anything. You could talk with the team, but you don't talk to like 100,000 people and say or a million people or whatever follows you have. It was just not existing at that time, and that's why it's kind of funny for me to see, and I always say to my riders as well, don't put those posts up like this was not the weekend I was looking for, because if you do that once and twice and third and fourth, I'm start thinking and reading this text and I'm thinking, what are you actually looking for? Just shut up and turn the throttle and do your best, and that's what you're looking for. That's exactly what you're looking for, is to do your best. All this, like, I'm not looking for this, and the track was fucking, forget it. Just turn the throttle and do your best, and then you gotta be happy. And then there is no regrets. Regrets is something that I never wanted to live in. I do my best. I train hard. I work hard. I eat. I sleep. I do everything what I could when I understand that this is what it needed. Then I did everything what I knew to perfection. Whatever results you come out of that, even if you think sometimes, but if I hang on one more year, I could have, maybe clinched a title or whatever. But you didn't, and that's the fact. So and fact is always right. And that's what I see now. Just go and ride hard and do things in the right way, and the social kind of perspective of hating Deacon, he do like really good. I think Jet is also doing a good job, but he's doing it in a slightly different way, and it's funny to see the different ways. And that's why, someone have more fans and someone have less fans. Someone have this kind of personality that stick with those fans. I'm probably more, if I had to choose between the two, I'm probably more like a Jet Lawrence fan because of he suits my personality, the way that my approach is to the sports. But that doesn't mean that I don't like Hayden Deacon. I think he's awesome, and I think he's great and fucking amazing rider. But that's we can choose, and I still, like I said, every rider on that line, I know what it takes to get there and how it is to be a professional rider. So I respect everyone because I know it's not easy at all.
Yeah, well said, mate. Really great insight there. And obviously, being prepared on the gate is so important. Like you said, mate, you come to the gate confident if you've done the work. And with the end of the season pretty much upon us and the preseason coming around fast, mate, obviously as a rider, trainer, and, as a racer in the past, mate, you know how important it is to put in that work and be prepared and get that base fitness level really up there and just leave no stone unturned, mate, because it's just so important getting that preseason dialed, and it can really pay dividends if you put in the work, mate, not just in a confidence sense, but in so many areas, mate. So you've got some boot camps coming up, cycling camps. So I guess tell us all about that and just touch on the importance of being prepared for the new season because it can really shape it, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I always got asked, again and again, in my career, but also as a coach, how do you get the confidence and how do you sit behind the gate, thinking that you have 40 riders on the gate at that time, and there's actually only one person at that gate I'm going to be focusing on, and that's the guy with number 72. It was a privilege to get to that point in your career where you kind of eliminated 38 riders, and it was only yourself and the guy that you're going to chase that was important. But to get to that point, we talking years of developing, both, physically, but also mentally, of how to approach and what to do. And that, of course, takes experience. So again, when we talk about it's like 20 years ago, a little bit more, that, I think it's 20 years ago, I won a GP in the MXGP class. And, to get to that point was my proof of, ding, I can actually do this with what I've done. I've thought about it, I did it, and I executed on it. So what I'm doing must be working, and now I have the confidence to do it. But now I have proved to myself that not only I think I can do it because of all the work effort that I put in, but it actually stands here, 1-1. And that was for me something that was approvable enough to actually think, fuck yeah, it is like running a business. It takes so long time. You make mistakes. You basically do not know in the beginning what to do because we don't have ChatGPT at that time. So we had to experience from our own mistakes, and that takes time to learn. And so what I do now is, with the boot camp and cycle camp and stuff, is that I really want people to teach them what is consistency. That's my main goal. What is consistency? What you do today or tomorrow or in 1 week is not going to benefit, if you only do it in 3 weeks and then you're going to spread that out over 1 year. No, what you do today, next month, the next couple of months, the next 5 months is going to define how your season is going to start. So preparation, that's what I learned with basically just listen and seeing and understanding, because believe me, there was not a lot of information when I was at the GP, and because that was confidential. There was only a very little, I would say, Belgian group that knew what to train and what to do, because first of all, they've done it, they've proven it, and the results was here. So then we had to guess, what is Stefan Everts doing? What is he doing in the off season? Well, nobody know, because there was no social media. So, you could not spy on people, So you had to play the game and trying to find out who is saying what, and, and make your own story out of it. And that's why I came up with this boot camp kind of concept, for cycling and gym, where I do like 7 days of boot camp. But it's not with the motocross bike. It's actually just without the motocross bike, and actually teaching the riders, what should you do during the week. And I pretty much opened that from the beginning of November until the end of November. And if people want to contact me or something like that, you can contact me on on my telephone number, on my social media, which is Brian Jorgensen MXoN, or even contact me on my website called mx8.dk. So what I wanted to do, like I said, is trying to create like a week where people understand that this is the consistency that you need, not only when you're on my camp, but you need to go home and do that effort and get your body tuned to be doing hard work, because motocross is always high intensity, but to build a good foundation will make sure that when you're building up the intensity, which is always on the bike, is I never hardly ridden a motorcycle where my heart rate is not under, where it's under 170. It's always from 170 and above. I don't know, maybe today it could be different, but that's always been like that. I remember Team Denmark was out doing analyzing with motocross, and my heart rate was between 198 and 210 for a whole moto. And the people from Team Denmark was analyze all the sport athletes. They were like, how is this even possible? From the gate drop to the first corner, which is it was in Nimes in Belgium in 98. And it went from, 140. I didn't even do anything with a heart rate of 140. And then when the gate dropped, it went to 180 in 300 meters. And it was just like, how is it possible? And then it went, with maximum heart rate, higher heart rate than what you could possibly get when you did a hard, condition test. And that was because of the adrenaline. So what I wanted to say with it is that I think it's really important that people not only do, the drills, what you need on the bike, but actually prepare your body before you do a boot camp on the MX bike, because the more you can prepare the body, you more you're going to get out of a boot camp, and you more you can train on the bike without being tired, less mistakes you're going to get, and you more consistent you're going to do. So this is what I do, from let's say November, I do the physical camps, and in December I start my boot camp, and then I have my normal camps, and I have 6 camps during the season, and from kind of December to end of February. So if people want to, go into camp or would like to hear more about the program, they can always look me up on Brian Jorgensen MXoN on Facebook, Instagram, or even send me a mail. So that's it. And I love to do this, and it's I'm luckily and fortunately enough also that I'm in half a decent shape, and I have a bit of a passion for cycling, and I have an amazing area here in Spain to do all the camps with, normally under like good condition of weather. And that's another thing as well that I try to tell the riders, not only about if you have to ride in the sun, but it's actually also to try to stay healthy, and if you're riding in where it's half snowing and it's half icy, and you can still ride, but you gotta, if you want to looking for position or consistency and championships, you got to put yourself in position where you're going to be consistent. And that means everything from riding the motorcycle in a safe place with no ice and unpredictable things coming up, and also not being cold and warm and cold and warm, but here you have more consistency of the temperature. So you know exactly what you're going to get every day. And that being sick and train really hard, and then being sick is, then you kind of like go up here, and then you go down here, and then you go up here. Where I think if you make a smart program during the season, whatever you choose where to go, you go like in a small elevation, you build more, you come down a little bit because you need to rest also, and then you come up again. But if you have to constantly deal with illness and being hot and cold all the time, then you can put a lot of money, a lot of effort into everything. But then again, if you get sick, before the season, and then you cannot ride or train for 1 or 2 weeks, then everything is lost anyway, So there's a lot of things and a lot of reason, and I know everything comes down to time and money and everything. But if you want to be a better rider and prepare yourself for, for something for next season, I think everything comes down to learning the technical aspect. And to be honest with you, Ed, also doing the off season is a lot easier for me to teach people to maybe learn new techniques during the off season, because we are not immediately thinking about speed. We are thinking about the basic thing first: how to ride the motorcycle, reflect on how we can be better and smarter, and then we can start building speed up for the season. So yeah, I'm basically just taking it out for some of the things that I learned through my career, and also the mistakes that I did, and also with the financial stuff. I remember going to France in late February, and have to like run and cycle and ride motocross and do everything in 1 week, and then we're ready for the GP. Here we go. But it's just because we didn't know better, and at that time, and we just thought that we could just go for France for 1.5 weeks, and then yes, then we are ready for the season. We have been riding, we have been running in the morning, we did everything what we could, but you come to the GP and you basically completely finished because you put all that effort into the last moment. So that's something I learned over the years, that consistency is the key to be successful, and finally give you the courage and the confidence to improve.
Yeah, it's really excellent stuff, mate. And like you said, the facilities are great there. There's all you need, all the bases are covered. And you just want to put yourself in the best conditions to succeed and be the best rider possible. Like most of the MXGP teams are out there in the off season, aren't they, mate? So, it sort of speaks for itself, that proven framework out there, mate. So hopefully it's another great off season for you, mate. And as we sort of wrap this one up, any final thoughts, mate? Excited for the Motocross of Nation? What's on the plan as well in the next few weeks? I'm sure you're flat out with everything, mate.
Yeah, like I'm just I have some people. I have some people from India over now and training with me, a young kid, and then I will have some people from Israel coming next week. A young little girl, which is also part of the Blue Crew, and then I'm gonna go to Romania to help my friend Addy to do a training school down there for the last. I think it's called Baltic Championship, the place where they had the World Championship Mini for a couple of years ago. He have a TV. I think it's called. I can never remember. I always fuck up but I think it's called TVS or something like that. It's like a big motor park in Romania, close to Bucharest. And yeah, I'm gonna go there for look the last race, help some of his riders, and then I'm gonna do a 2 days in training school there, and then we're gonna go off to do some mountain biking. I hope we're gonna do the helicopter ride with the mountain bike, and we get dropped off in 2,000 meters, and then you have a 30 or 40 kilometer downhill with mountain bikes, and yeah, it's called heli ride. So also have a bit of fun at the same time. I'm in that age where I'm not because I'm really old or anything, but I just feel like I just need to get the best out of every moment. And like I said, I live in the moment. I don't live in the past, and I also try not to live too much in the future, because that is one thing that you do learn being a racer, that you live in the moment, and you cherish the moment you're in, and when you win, you celebrate, you because you know how hard it is to win again. So I probably carry that on a little bit in my private life as well, that I expect the best for myself, and trying to get the best out of every day. Not because I think I'm dying or anything, but I just want to make sure that when it's time one day, then I had a hell of a time, and I gave my best, shot of having fun and doing everything what I want to do. Also, my kids are coming down in a couple of weeks for the holiday, and yeah, I just really look forward to spend some time with them and have a good time. So just living in the moment, and doing my best to really cherish every moment that I have, because we all know that unfortunately, it we only have this life, and we gotta get the best out of it. And good enough, we don't know when it's over. So That's definitely something I learned with losing my dad in quite a young age. That don't take anything for granted. Live in the moment, and they get the best out of it, and then you have no regrets.
Yeah,
It's
well
nothing
said.
worse than thinking that I should have done this and I should have traveled to here and do this. And that's probably also in racing. I know that I retired maybe not too young, but in the right moment, and I can be happy that I did everything what I could, and what I knew at that time, and that gives a great satisfaction. And you are able to move on to the next thing, which now is coaching, and it really makes me happy, when I can see someone improving, if it's more or less, or it's just nice to help people, really to help. And I know it's my business as well, but I generally, and I think everyone that have been on my training school can see that I don't only do it for money. I actually do it because I really love it. I love to see people improving and work with people. And it's so interesting how people are working and all that mindset that, sometimes you can change to people. And once it click for them and they understand about, positive energy and the way to approach and see when we fail. And most people think that failure is a bad thing. But I said, look at your failure as a strength. If we didn't fail, if you ask any successful motocross tennis player, whatever it is in the world that's been any success at anything over a certain year of time, everyone will explain they have learned the most from failing. You learn nothing from winning. You learn absolutely nothing. So you learn everything from failing because that appreciate the moment of winning, and you know how you got there. And that was because you failed so many times that you hardly maybe even believe that you're gonna win one day. But then when you win, it's like the greatest thing. And I think that's such a achievable and a nice thing about the sport. Especially motocross, because it's so hard work. There's so many things that can fail on the way that is always not necessarily your mistake, but you can do nothing about it, and you can just move on, and you can work a little bit harder, do it again, and suddenly, bam, we are here. See, like a little bit what we talked about gifting. Like working, and then suddenly he become like here, and then he's one of them here, and then he's back to here. And it's such a difficult sport, and that's why I also love the sport so much, and see what it really takes. And that's why jealousy or for people making money or whatever, I think it's just, I'm so happy on their behalf, because it's fucking it hard work. There would be a lot easier things to do in life. Even people think that it's a perfect life to live, but it's only a perfect life to live because you choose it to be perfect life of living. And you enjoy it. Because if people didn't have that passion for we had with the sport, there's no way that you want to go through hell and come back and go through hell again and come back. You will just never do that in a normal job. You will just quit straight away because you think, fuck this, you know. But we keep going because it's our passion. So that's the last thing I want to say. Keep going, guys, and believe in yourself. One day it will happen if you work hard.
Oh, well said, mate. That's excellent advice, and it's exciting and busy times ahead for you, mate. And definitely, thanks for taking the time to join us on this one. We'll keep them going for sure. And yeah, massive shout out to the listeners and the fans for supporting the website and these podcasts. All the feedbacks really appreciated, and also massive thank you to our sponsors in Fly Racing, Firepower, Dirt Store, and Fuchs Silkaline for all their incredible support. As without them, none of this would be possible. All right, thanks again, Brian. All the best with everything, mate. We look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks a lot, and let's cheer for Australia and Denmark. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. Well said. Have a good one.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care, buddy.